All right, this is the after chapter discussion for 10.06. Um, we're just going to start it off like we start off every after chapter discussion. Give your general impressions, anything you guys thought was a good scene, bad scene, anything that stood out to you, your favorite moment in the chapter, stuff like that. General impressions. And I'll start in just a moment. Just got pinged and I want to see what it is. Anyways, general impressions. This was definitely a 9 out of 10 chapter for me. I really, really enjoyed it. It was great to see Erin again. I like the first person sections with the prairlings. They were cool. They were unique. But yeah, it was really interesting to learn about prairlings too. It was really cool to see into their cities even more than what we've seen in the past and see them basically teleport in a pre-made building. That was so cool. But yeah, 9 out of 10 chapter, really great. Niers is like going crazy, trying to get trying to get Erin to come to him. So we'll see if Erin is like, okay, I guess we'll come over. But who knows on that? Otherwise, yeah. Sir Bear, how about you? How do you feel about the chapter? Give me your general impression.
I didn't like the chapter as much because to me it felt like a bit of everything. Here's some thrilling information. Here's some United Nation information. Here's some alien information. Here's some random goblin plot that is coming. Here's near at the end. That's like I'm going to meet that woman. I'm going to do everything to meet that woman. Finally, which is extremely funny. But it feels like a lower quality chapter. And as we learn at the end of the in the author's note, we know we're supposed to have a Erin chapter next, somewhat. So probably it's a tease for that. But yeah, if I were to give it a note, 6, 7 out of 10.
All right. All right. Thank you for your opinion, Sir Bear. It definitely was a setup chapter in that, it's the start of an arc, obviously. It's definitely the start of Erin and Belarus and just getting the various players into place, the UN, the Freilings, the Forgotten Wing Company, goblins too. We got the goblins. Yeah, so yeah, it definitely was more of a setup chapter, so there were quite a few plots happening, but I still really liked it. I did. I did. But thank you, Sir Bear. How about we go to Void 22? You wanted to speak.
Yes, I've enjoyed how this chapter and the rest of the volume in general has really carried forward the weight of the previous volume's climax while still being a more relaxed sort of cool down chapter, as it were. And I very much enjoyed seeing Erin's sort of reactions to what happened to her last volume and her just generally being a much more intense character than she normally presents.
Yeah, she was much more intense this chapter. It was a very stark shift from what we've seen of her from her in the past. Um, and one of the biggest thing, honestly, was just seeing her say that chess can wait. She's not interested in chess right now. That was like one of the big things. I was like, whoa, Erin's not doing good right now. She's got her serious face on. She's traumatized. It's very interesting to see. Any other thoughts, Floyd?
No,
Okay,
that's it.
thank
That's
you.
it in general.
Yeah, thanks, Void. I'm going to read out some of the comments now. Jesse Squirrel says, I love the introduction of Erin as a parallel to the last boxes because that really encapsulates what she is at this point. She's awesome and amazing and unique, but dangerous because of the secrets she holds and just as much because of how unpredictable she is. Yeah, that's an interesting point you bring up, Jesse. She definitely is very, very dangerous right now, and she not just because she herself is dangerous, but because of the attention she's gonna bring on everyone. She's already got a goblin lord coming out of the woodworks in Belarus, the place that apparently no goblins are, and just meeting her right outside of Talonqual. And yes, I have no idea how to pronounce that. So it's Talonqual. Okay. Okay. Anyways, thank you, Jesse. Bartimaeus says it was a long-awaited Erin chapter, but we still haven't seen inside her head yet. Obviously, she's not the Erin from before the solstice, and she's a bit too intense right now compared to how we knew her. Learning more about Paith was fun. Yeah, intensity has definitely come through for a lot of people. Obviously, everyone is noticing how intense she is right now, and how different she is. But yeah, I really can't wait till we get into the head of Erin here, and the next few chapters. Hopefully, I would hope we get uh Erin-centric point of view coming up soon. Mahi says, I like the chapter. I like how the reaction is different from the Tears of Liskor. That was a different theme. Wish we could see her point of view, but I loved the Frailing's take on her. It was really fun. Love seeing Niers get a bit unhinged and literally send a battalion to talk to her. That was hilarious. Yeah, Niers is Niers is going off the deep end a little bit there with what he's doing, but it's interesting. It's interesting. Let me just read off Kaineas, and then I'll get to you, Samuel. Kaineas says, it was a good chapter, but quite introductory, and it seems purposely slow. We got Erin in serious, intense mode, a bit of overview of the situation, and some encounters. We all also want to know about Erin's new skills, but it seems those will come out slowly as they're required, so we have surprises for some time. Yeah, and it was interesting that Erin even seemed to be intentionally not using her skills. Like she was getting a crossbow, she was getting a wand, but we've seen her with some. We haven't seen her try and use any of her new skills or show them off to anyone either. Action Kermit says, I don't think Niers is going off the deep end. He's remembering the last time someone stonewalled him from seeing an Earther. That was Geneva when she was kidnapped by the mines, and that turned into a huge disaster. You're right, Kermit. You're right. I'm being a little facetious here, saying he's going off the deep end, but still, he's taking this very seriously, and that is seemingly coming through in his actions. Bartimaeus says, Niers' crush on her has gone too far if he's sending armies in now instead of waiting until she was ready. All right, Samu, let's get back to you. What were your general impressions?
Yeah, I found the chapter as intense as everyone else, I think, but what I liked about it as well is that despite the intensity, there were those little moments that were at least somewhat comedic. And if it was a classic chapter from a few volumes ago, they would have been a lot bigger in paragraphs and a lot more fun in the sense. But like the moment when Erin fell in path, and then with when she tests out the crossbow, and the scene where she just got bigger and made a little bit bigger than she usually was, and then stumbles before she greets Dawson. There were like only half sentences of each of these moments, but when you really think about them, they are quite funny, and that I found it quite a good contrast to the usual intensity that despite the intensity of the chapter itself or the situation and where she is, she's still somewhat of a funny person in some moments.
Yeah, she has some comedy in her still. That's good. It is. All right. Any other thoughts, Samuel? I'll take the silence as a no. And
Yeah.
we'll just okay. Thank you, Samuel. I'll read out the last few comments, and then we'll move on to the first question. We'll just focus on Erin for the first couple. We'll do one super Erin-centric question at the start. Tomio says, Niers is so creepy, QIQ, which is a little funny crying face. And no, I'm not biased. Tomio is a little bit biased because, as we all know, he's a sunken shipper, and sunken shippers are, they lost their ships. Tomio is a little biased, but it's okay. I think quite a few people think Niers is creepy right now. Bagger says, I didn't like the chapter. That doesn't mean it was bad. I don't like seeing Erin fighting against her trauma. I don't like her being only in survival mode, but it is necessary. I like the goblins scenes. I really liked her break down barriers and make a real connection with people and asking how hard things are, what they're struggling with. Meanwhile, she's pushing away help. She helps others when she needs a therapist herself. Yeah. We saw her focus almost exclusively on other people this chapter. She did not open up at all with anyone. I can't think of anyone she opened up with this chapter in any significant way. So it's definitely a more closed off Erin we're seeing right now. Jesse Squirrel says, I think this chapter was the first time I actually thought about Niers from a negative perspective. As Ekern was talking about how many bodies he piled up to get here, and how his home city is gone. And then bringing out his entire country, or army, just to get Erin's attention. I love Niers, but this is the first time I was a little scared of him. He was very scary here. But I think, thinking about it a little bit more, it does make sense because Erin she had a huge amount of enemies come for her. And more than just that, she's, level 55. He must know she's over level 50 now. She's incredibly important. So it does make some sense, but he still is going overboard. Gridcube says, Dark Erin arc will be hard to read, but you know what they say about things you fear. All right. I think there's a couple more people typing up some last minute thoughts. But otherwise, I'm just gonna get the next question out prepared while people type. This is kind of a long question with multiple facets. People don't have to answer all of them. But let me just read off the last few things. Sir Bear says, I don't think Niers is that creepy because Erin will need all of that protection. Goblin just tried to take her. Fairlings talked about people trying to teleport to Erin's location. I doubt Niers got the same anti-teleport stuff as the Fairlings. He probably doesn't have as good as they have, yeah. But very few people do. Alright, I'm gonna post the next question. Now that Erin has mana, even though it is a small amount, how powerful magically will she be? And how does the fairy flower honey not have much effect on her body? And does Erin have a dark charm about her? Is that the right descriptor, or is there more that the Fairlings just haven't encountered? And why do you think Erin wanted to be taller? Will it make that much of a difference? So these are all about Erin. This is basically all about Erin's attitude. If you have any comments on Erin's attitude, any comments on her body, her physical changes, what she's gone through right now, this is the question for it. I kind of just combined a bunch of different questions into one. So I will just start off going down the list a bit. Erin already did have some magic before, but magically she will be. It sounds like she's more powerful now. She has a higher degree of mana and magic now, which will pair nicely with her witch class. So that should be cool to see. Fairy flower. We don't really know what the fairy flower honey has done. Maybe it's not perceptible to the Fairlings. Maybe it has some something we're just not seeing yet. So yeah, it's hard to say. And does Erin have a dark charm about her? Yes. In this chapter, she definitely has a dark charm about her. It's like it's definitely I really do agree with that description. That dark charm. She's kind of like twisted right now. She's got some trauma right now, and it's coming through in how she's like staring at people, how she's talking about people's um, the worst parts of their lives, how they dealt with the trauma themselves. So yeah, I do think that's a good description. And why did Erin want to be taller? I don't know. I don't know why Erin wanted to be taller. I'm not sure we've ever seen her wanting to be taller. I could be forgetting something like that, but um, I'm not sure why. Yeah, I don't know. I hope someone else. I know I see Geiger in chat has a theory. Geiger says the taller bit clearly a trauma response to me. She needs to feel bigger, stronger, able to fight and win. Maybe she's under the influence. Erin module is downloading Erin version 10.06. Yeah, it that's a good point, Geiger. It could be a trauma response. She wants to have that feeling of more power. It could be. Tomio, you had an answer to this question and you wanted to speak?
Yes, I would like to answer the first question. I believe that mostly her getting the mana circuit would be quite inconsequential. We all know that Aaron Powers came from influence than a witchcraft, which not using her mana at all. And so I think that is something of a conversation where Parrot is giving us, yeah, this is something she had, a small upgrade. And I don't think it will matter in the long run. So yeah, I don't think it's going to be important later on. And for the last question about Ellen wanting to be taller, I agree that it may be from trauma. She wanted to be seen. She wanted to be feel as important and to be regarded as rather than before. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tomio. You're right that her power, her direct, power isn't really the focus, and she's definitely more of a soft power person. But at the same time, she's away from a lot of her soft power reach. So having more direct power here could help her a lot. Sir Bear, you wanted to speak up next?
Yeah, it's interesting because there's a theory that aspect of the end, the new skills she got, allow her to get more to get access to the magical line from her in skill. There's also maybe the possibility that a witch class gave her a mana skill. It's I feel we don't have enough information to really answer because there's so many possibility. Could be an influence from the fairy flower, but I doubt it because fairy flower is mostly mentally with the effect, all that stuff, as we've seen with Apista taking the fairy flower pollen for months and being drugged out of her mind. To talk about her, I don't. I know we saw a bit at the end of volume 9 when she was making all of the speech and she was talking to Gershon, all the people when she was giving the weapon. And they were like, yeah, that woman is deadly. That's the thing that's always existed. But it's also need to learn that the feeling they didn't see the Erin that most people see that it's joyous, being in being a bit dumb, it's being silly and all of that, it's doing funny stuff. They see the real Erin without the mask for protection, as we learned in volume 7. For the third bit, I'm it's a thing that's not recent, as Void 22 said in the comment, and I'm disappointed because Erin being short works so well for her because we see all these big people, the Niers that are massive, Zell that are massive, the goblin that can be massive when they reach one in their form. We see all these big people, and we see next to that Niers that is extremely small, but got a massive aura that call him gave him the nickname the Titan. It works so well to compare Erin and Niers with them being so small and so dangerous at the same time.
Yeah, I'll just respond to the last bit about her being taller. That is an interesting point. That she, being smaller is, kind of part of her charm. But
You underestimate her because she's small. Shouldn't she see
Yeah.
all of that?
yeah, but I will say that 6 foot isn't huge. It's pretty tall for yeah, it is pretty tall, but it's not like gigantic. So I don't know. We'll see if that has an effect. Well, it could very well have an effect. But yeah, thank you, Sir Bear. Let's go to Samu. You wanted to speak.
Yeah, what I was thinking about mainly about the taller question, and to me, it seems a little bit that she leans a little bit into the persona she's becoming now in others' perceptions, and maybe that helps her with her witchcraft, and because perceptions matter a lot, and now it's like it doesn't work anymore to play the innocent small woman innkeeper, but now she is like a little bit of a more taller persona, more a more a more perceived persona in general. So being taller might help with that, and leaning into such personas also visually is very much a bridge thing, as we know. That's all.
Yeah, being tall does lend credence to kind of like a powerful presence in many ways. So we'll see if she plays off of that. Void22 says Erin wanted to be taller per the AMA with the characters. She's always wanted it since she learned about magic. I don't know how canon the AMA is. I'll just say that it might be canon, but it's always more canon if it's actually in the text. Gridcube says the Frailing said that she was becoming an ooze from all the honey she ate. They removed most of the damage, that amount of magic in her body, intentionally. The healer said basically the same that Terry said when he healed Ryoka after overdosing on mana potions. Also, whatever the death of magic did obviously changed her physiology. Yeah, that could have been from the honey. We don't know if it's like actually the honey. It could have been just leftover damage from being in a magical onslaught, basically. But yeah, it could have been the honey. Could have been. Jesse Squirrel says, I think this whole chapter, keeping herself closed off, putting on the innkeeper face, even making herself taller, I think it's a defense mechanism. I think she's afraid to let people get close right now because she knows how much she's endangering everyone around her. Even the getting taller thing could be about subtly manipulating how people see her, making them see her less vulnerable so they feel less obligated to risk themselves for her. She's tired of people dying for her. Yeah, that's an excellent point. It's definitely that's very well could be what she's doing right now, and it seems like that's how she's approaching this. She definitely thinks she's endangering everyone around her just by being there, and so she's kind of closing herself off. It seems like. Sir Bear linked the AMA response, which says, "Just Erin, I want to be taller. Ryoka, you're tall enough, Erin. Erin says you can reach things on high shelves. Me, taller, no weight. I also want the ability to cast super magic. More of that than magic." Kainia says, the thing about mana was a bit of going against expectations. I think most of us expected her to develop her Gallus missile, and we get that she doesn't and loses the bit she had for now. And she gets mana. And like Tomio said, I think witchcraft doesn't use mana except maybe her skill that got her sorcery. Let's hope she finds some interesting uses for it and it doesn't end up forgotten. She did want magic in the beginning. She kind of got it with the witch class, but maybe there is more to find with this. Could be the way to recover her wonder, as it should be difficult for her right now, but I think it is something essential to her. Yeah, that's a good point, Kanias. Good. Tomio says, Erin was never swole and canon now. Yeah, we lost out on Erin Solstice. Did lose out on Erin Solstice. It'll be missed by some people. Grid Cube says, if she can choose her size, then maybe it's all about presenting a profile now. But later, half a potion makes her look like a halfling or whatever, so she can hide better if people expect her to be 2 meters tall. Yeah, it certainly could be about kind of changing what she looks like to blend in better or to not blend in better, to stand out. Anyways, I think that's it for these answers. Let's do another Erin question. Erin and the goblins, basically. Will Erin go and meet with the Goblin Lord and his tribe? And what do you think the goblins wanted to communicate to Erin? Does anyone have any thoughts on like possible translations for the goblin text? I don't think we have enough information. I know in the past we got one word in goblin and it means sorry, the nahore or something. I can't say it. Nifoma, I think. Or something like that. I think that was sorry. Or one of the words. We know one of the words is sorry. Or something like that. I feel it, I think. Anyways, if you guys have thoughts on that and thoughts on what the goblins wanted. Oh yeah, it's help. Nifoma is help. Thank you, Bartimaeus. Not sorry. Thank you. So yeah, we know at least one word is help. So presumably something about helping. As to the question itself, I'll just give my answer and then we'll move on to chats. Will Erin go and meet with Goblin Lord and his tribe? She might. That's a distinct possibility, except it's really dangerous for her to go after them, and she doesn't even know where to look, honestly. It would be very difficult for her to try and find them, as it seems like they're incredibly well hidden right now. Though there was one piece of text that was interesting. Yeah, the very last line mentioned Nagas in some way. So maybe they're next to the Nagas or they're in Naga territory, but it still would be difficult to figure that out where they are. And what do you think the goblins wanted to communicate to Erin? Well, we know everyone knows Erin is a goblin friend, so and we know they were asking they said help several times. So honestly, I think they're asking for Erin's help. Like that's like the most basic message I can think of is just asking for Erin's help in something. But what that something is, I got no idea. Maybe it's related to the Nagas. Maybe it's something else. I don't know. Hard to say. But let's go chat. Sir Barry, you wanted to speak?
Yeah, obviously the goblin. I think at first the goblin were there to check on her if she wanted help or not. Because Malva made the call, Erin disappeared for 1 month. We don't know where Gredat and Umalva are. Maybe the goblin know, but we don't. I think they were checking on her if possible if maybe they were, yeah, something like that. Uh, uh, on someone found an interesting fact about the Body Wars goblin. is that when we saw Grey Death, I don't remember I think volume 7. Grey Death on the boat, and the goblins were going to Baleros because they were having problem with the lizard. So maybe we can assume that the Naga and the Goblin are having a secret war in the background that no one really knows about, because a Goblin Lord is there, and
Yeah.
if it was known that the Goblin Lord was there, I think the info will be spread everywhere. Everyone will know about it. So yeah, probably a secret war or secret operation.
Hmm.
Because we know the lizard got temple also, so maybe they're doing something god related.
Hmm.
Maybe something like that.
It could be. Yeah. You mentioned Grey Death, and I just remembered something that I saw in chat last night. And there's a line. I'll just link it. I'll just quote it in chat too. There's a line. Grey Death, not Grey Death. Gredath Passe and Candidates Passe. That Gredath, that very easily could be Grey Death, and so Passe could very well be Lord, Gredath Lord, and then Canadith Lord. So maybe that's their name. The name of the Goblin Lord there is
Yeah,
Canadith.
and since candidate was after a comma at the end of the question, yeah, it could be the
Yeah.
name of the Goblin Lord.
Yeah. So yeah, there's some hints here that we can work with, I think. But yeah, it could very well be that there's a hidden war going on between the Nagas and the goblins, and that would be really cool. I hope we get more of this soon. I hope it's not like something we're going to come back to 20 chapters from now. I like goblins. They're cool. All right, thank you, Sir Bear. Gridcube says, yes, stuff. Thank you, Gridcube. Jesse Squirrel says, I think they were drawn to her because of her natural ally goblins, if that's not obvious. It also seems like they had a big negative reaction to the attempted invocation of Velen, which makes me wonder if they set themselves aside from the whole Lord/King stuff. That could be very interesting. Yeah. The other thing is, this is the continent that Velen came from, and it was only 10 years ago. It really was not that long ago that Velen was here on Belarus. So their negative reaction could just be, sadness/anger. It really was not that long in the past that they would forget about Velen. And, they could very well have connections to Velen and have stayed behind. But yeah, another option could be that they don't like Velen too. Gridcube says, yes, eventually she'll find Ilvama or Rabbit or maybe an envoy of the island. Seems like the Skinwalker went out for Erin without the Goblin Lord permission. They probably wanted to tell her that the Nagas are getting the Eye of Belarus. Belarus. Who knows? That could be it, yeah. That's definitely something that they could be asking Erin for help for. And especially because if they knew anything about Erin, or if they had information about Erin, they could connect her with Vetten/Selmy if they had really good information. Belarus. Ross. Belarus. I don't know how to say it. I'm going to keep saying different things every single time. Anyways, I see two more people. Belarus. Yeah. Huh. Anyways, I see one more person typing. I'll let them finish and then we'll go on to another question. Jesse Squirrel says, the fact that they stayed behind from Velen is pretty significant, I think. I got the feeling that Velen rallied virtually every goblin around him into a fervor, especially obviously not all of them. So anyone who stood apart is interesting. Yeah. It could also be someone, a goblin lord that, lived through Velen's end on Israel and came back to Belarus. It could be, though I think that's a lot less likely because, they did make a point in the chapter that all the goblin lords besides Greydath were almost confirmed dead. Sir Bear says, I think Trembrag said something along the lines of the Goblin Lords betraying Velen. He did, but we don't know if that was like a lie or not to like get Rags close to him because during that time he was gonna try and kill Rags. But yeah, it could have been true. It could not have been true. It's really hard to tell just because of the source of Trembrag. Anyways, let's move on from Erin and let's go to UN. The UN definitely had some interesting things happen this chapter, or we're told about some interesting things that have happened to them. So, what was the most interesting development for the UN for you guys? I'll just go over some of them. Like, it's very interesting that it seems like Geneva is no longer a part of the UN. Like, that's a pretty massive development, and I kind of am wondering why exactly that Geneva decided to leave the UN. Like, she's been gone for a while. She was kidnapped by the mines, and that really kind of separated her from them for a long time. But I'm not sure why she would then decide to leave the UN. Maybe it's because she feels much like Erin does now, and that her presence will bring issues if she's there in them and they can't protect her. So maybe that's why she's sticking with Niers and the Forgotten Wing. I'm not really sure. But one other interesting development for me at least was that Karana is approaching level 40. And like that's huge. Like huge levels in some of the UN then. So if Karana is approaching level 40, we have to wonder about like Dali and Siri and Ken as well. Those are some of the more active people in the UN. And Luan, of course, he's been approaching 40 for a while. But yeah, it's very interesting. And I wonder if we're going to get more information about their levels in general coming up here soon. And I saw a mention of Faith in the other chat. And yeah, Karana is, basically praying to not the dead gods, but she's praying to something, just in general. And that's very interesting because it seems like she has some kind of faith skills that can restore faith, restore faith or hope, like Pawn had in the past. So honestly, that's both concerning and interesting. We'll see where that goes. Jesse Squirrel says, read Geneva. I don't think it's a matter of bad blood or anything. I think she just has a bigger, more global purpose at this point. They're doing their thing. She's doing hers. That was the vibe I got. That's a good point. That Geneva really is kind of more global now, and she has a goal now that requires much more resources that aren't dedicated just to the UN. Like, she's trying to help the Selfids out, and she's trying to help out a lot of other people too. So it's definitely different than the UN's mission, which is focused much more on Earthers. Jesse Squirrel also says, I love seeing Ken's dedication, wearing the Dullahan armor even when he could have easily taken off. He is committed. He's one of my favorite of the lesser seen characters. Yeah, Ken was always a really cool character in the Geneva chapters, and I was I've always been sad that we just never got more of him later on. And now that we seemingly are going to get more of him, it's great. I love it. It's great, great, great. Gridcube says, for me was the amount they are, that they don't know at all of the convention that someone invented forklift certification. Otherwise, they seem to be like a larger version of the useless group of humans. I don't think they're that bad. They've been doing good. They've got Luan, they've got Dally, they've got Ken. All those are high level people. I don't think they're useless. Unless that acronym means something else, but I'm pretty sure you meant useless group of humans. Anyways, Sir Bear, how about you go up, and then we'll have Samu?
I don't understand the criticism of the useless group of human either, because they all have jobs, they are all working, they are all doing something. They're not just being lazy around doing nothing, like they were in Manuela's mention. So yeah, it's a bit weird, but yeah. I think the thing that surprised me the most, and at the same time didn't surprise me a lot, is the Bush Ranger being a gold rank adventure team. Let me check. Yeah, it's weird because they didn't seem that strong enough to be gold. Maybe when we saw him in the previous chapter, they were like a good silver team that were prepared, that know how to do stuff, but not that strong and themselves. So it's a bit weird them being gold. Maybe it's the thrilling equipment that made them gold, because as we learned in volume 4, when the Orange got the equipment, equipment can also make you gold in itself. So maybe it's that. Maybe it's the thrilling equipment, into not all 30 plus and something like that.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've seen them. I forget the exact chapter we last saw them in action, but I feel like it hasn't been.
We saw them in action and the Leroy's battle at the end of volume 8.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And keep in mind that's been like 4 months ago. That was like 4 months of time we just have not seen the Bush Rangers. So in that, I feel like getting to gold rank in that time is it's achievable. It's achievable for them.
It's achievable, but it's a bit weird since it's been a while since we last saw them and all of that. So
yeah, it has been. All right, thank you, Sir Bear. I'm gonna read out Gridcube's comments real fast, and then I'll come to you, Samu. Gridcube says they could have conquered half the continent. They're mostly low-leveled for people who had 3.14 XP multiplier. Still, the useless group of humans eventually showed they could be useful, so it's not that bad a comparison. I still think it's pretty unfair to the UN, but I won't harp on about that. Samu, you're up.
Yeah, I think I'm quite pleased and that you can see that all of the leadership, at least of them, has grown, and they definitely have advanced their classes. I think Dali is a commander now, and Siri is a sniper, which is both, and she's starting to do the thing that all rogues and stuff do by appearing in random places and scaring people, which I really liked. But in general, like, we see that all of them have grown into their roles a little bit. They know how to do stuff, and they're like they seem competent on their level, and I think that's what I really thought was really nice. And also seeing Ken having given someone the instructions of getting something out of Erin is like really showing that Ken is not just a naive diplomat that I think that some had the impression on he is from the chapters, from the early chapters. that he really uses his role in a not just naive way. And I think that's been really cool to see that all of them have grown into fairly competent people. And what I also the other thing is also that I think Blake has gotten a kind of interesting medical class and is still in contact with Geneva. And I think that's also that also found that important to see that Geneva didn't just leave them hanging, and that her clinic is doing something basically with help of the Frailings and Blake with his interesting class. And I think that's cool to see. So the UN is also innovating on medical equipment stuff, and yeah, that has a lot of potential, I think, as well. That's all.
Yeah, thank you, Sambu. Good to hear from everyone. I think I'm going to read out some more comments, Asteria, then I'll come to you. Kania says, I had the thought when they talked about the quantity of Earthers they were finding that we haven't heard about almost any recent ones in Israel, and that was a bit strange. The chemist was, I think, the only one. Maybe the walled cities and other powers are hiding them, or maybe there are less there for some reason. Could be, or, we just couldn't be. We focused a lot on list score last volume, so we could just be missing them, honestly. Jesse Squirrel said, the feeling I got from this chapter for the United Nations was that even though we don't see what they're up to all the time, they have just as much going on in their lives as Erin does, even if it's not quite as dramatic all the time. They've come into their own in terms of unique and powerful classes. They faced challenges and made a real identity for themselves. They're not just surviving in this world, they're thriving in it and have become part of it. I really do agree with this assessment that they have carved their own niche in the world, and I think they're doing really well considering who they are and what they have access to. And maybe they're not as amazing as Erin, maybe they're not as amazing as Ryoka or Kara, but they're doing really well. I feel like they've got stuff going very well. Anyways, Asteria, how about you? What do you have to say?
I was just gonna echo that. I think it's really cool to see how the UN has developed because it's been so long since we've been with them, and how they've kind of each come into their own. And there's definitely tension there, right? People have kind of started to kind of do their own thing. When we last left them, there was a bunch of like, all right, what's going to happen? Because we know the gunpowder usage was contentious. We know that Ken and Geneva kind of were making their own way. So it's interesting to kind of see where the dynamics are, even though we haven't checked in with them in a while. I think the character that really grabbed my attention the most was the sort of keeper of the home. I forget the exact class and actually her name, but she was the one that was kind of doing the prayers, and how Erin took the time to specifically address this question of like, oh, you're praying, but the whole thing is we're against the dead gods. And I thought that was an interesting development for where we saw that was also a point of contention the last time we were with the UN. And I really liked that Pirate remembered those little details and kind of brought them up in a chapter where they were very relevant, because you've got Erin is kind of becoming the focal point for the lead off against the dead gods, but you've got all the Earthers with all their different sort of spectrum of classes and beliefs. And it was just kind of interesting to see that come into play. So I thought that was really cool. I also thought it was cool that through her, we kind of realized that apparently Erin likes a variety of spices, which I thought she was more of a bland food kind of person. So I thought that was an interesting development to learn that apparently Erin likes a lot of different spices, but because I thought that was the opposite.
It's all that honey. She's gotten sick of it, so now she needs spice.
Is that a change, Wiggles?
I don't know. I don't keep track of her food habits. Honestly, I don't.
I think it feels like a saint somewhat.
It's yeah. But yeah, Sarah, thank you. It was Karana, the Earther who's praying, and the housekeeper. Her name's Karana. Yeah, I always love it when we come back to these other viewpoints, and it seems like Pirate Abbot has like gone through and refreshed themselves by reading old chapters and kind of seeing where they left off and giving us an update with new stuff that's happened. I really do like that a lot. So yeah, thank you, Asteria. Let's read out some more comments. Gridcube says the leaders of the UN were wary of Erin because she's a hill that says hello. Only the hill turned out to be a volcano, but once they got to talk to her, they realized she's on their side. They know how deep into disaster the world is going more than most. Backing up Erin makes sense in many ways. And yeah, I think that it like comes back to that dark charm she was said to have this chapter that kind of won them over. Like it reminded them of Geneva in a lot of ways, and so they're like, okay, let's just help her out anyways. Sir Bear says, I think they realized Erin is way out of her depth. They're just dealing with their small city, and then here comes Erin with her intercontinental / multiversal dangers, and then here comes the secret goblin lord of Niers with all his armies. Obviously, you don't want to deal with that despite having debt with that person. They just want to live normally, not declaring war against the world. Obviously, she also dropped a trauma on the members with the backstories. Yeah. She did well in kind of winning them over in a way that's like not not directly trying to win them over. Just showing her trauma, basically. Actually, Kermit says, if Erin didn't like spices, then she wouldn't have hired Kylescent as a cook for the inn. That's not necessarily true. Not necessarily true. Tavar says, Erin has historically made very American food, which isn't exactly super spicy. That is true. Yeah. She herself has focused. I don't think she's ever focused on spicy foods in preparation before Kylescent came around. Asteria says, barring parts of California and southern U.S., but Erin is from part known for more bland comfort food. How dare you, Asteria? They're not bland comfort food. They're amazing, delicious pizzas and pizzas and pizzas.
No, they're like easy bake. Like, what is it? The thing you all put in one pot and then stick it in the oven. Like, no, it's like cheese and carbs and there's no spices. It's just salt and maybe a little bit of pepper.
Yeah, so
Don't get me wrong,
delicious.
delicious,
So
but
delicious.
it's bland comfort food.
Blech. Blech. Jesse Squirrel says, also hamburgers. Yeah, hamburgers too. Sir Bear says there was a spice joke / prank with the pasta where one part of one plate out of many were super spicy. Happens in volume 5. Yeah. Tavar says, speaking about trauma, really wish the Fairlings had offered her a thought healer. They should at least know that'd be a good thing for her, and maybe not taken up for danger reasons, but at least offer. Yeah, yeah. They could have offered. I wonder if that's just something Paradava forgot to add in, because it does seem like something they would have offered in the past, or it could have been something that it was one of the tests she went through. They sent in a thought healer and to see how she was doing. Asteria says, in reply to Sir Bear, which makes it interesting that despite initial reluctance to assist her, they each initially offered what help they could in reply to the UN helping Erin. And yeah, that's why I think the dark charm comment really is very appropriate, because obviously she did charm them in some ways, even if it wasn't in the way she usually has in the past. Sarah, you want to speak again?
Yeah, so just in response to that, I thought it was a little bit strange that they swung so quickly from like, all right, treat her with this kind of caution and reluctance, and then they're like, oh, you're so sad. Let me help you. I wasn't I don't know if I missed something in the chapter that, like, caused that or, if it was their bonding over the fact that she's an earther and kind of this major person, or if, like, maybe there should have been more scenes or development in the writing that kind of justified them all immediately changing their minds to offer what help they could. And I was interested to hear like other takes on that or your take on that. And I just kind of thought that maybe that may have been like a writing miss rather than so much a like something about Erin being super charming that instantly won everybody over.
Well, I think part of it is simply because Erin reminds them so much of Geneva. They've dealt with Geneva quite a lot in the past, and Erin right now is reminding them very hard of Geneva. Plus, she does have like she d- sorry, I had to cough. She does have uh she does have a magnetism about her right now that just she's bringing out people's traumas and she's talking about people's traumas and she's just listening and being very empathetic in many ways. And I think that has won some of them over just because it reminds them so much of Geneva. But at the same time, it's not like they're giving her huge help. Paige was trying to help her. Like she was saying, "Okay, we can give you some help," but I still don't think Paige would give her explosives or anything like that. I don't think she would. At the end of the day, Action Kermit says Erin does have crowd control, and Magnolia mentioned a long time ago that Erin uses it unconsciously because she was never trained to use it in a disciplined way. That could be a part of it too. Yeah, Kermit, that's an excellent point. It could be a part of it that it's just crowd control helping her manipulate people a bit. I saw during the stream, people were talking about how Erin was kind of using crowd control on the Earthers to like kind of rotate them out. Uh, so that I don't think that's like necessarily supported by the chapter, but it's definitely a theory there. Sir Bear says, I think Paige wanted to, but couldn't. Maybe. I'm not sure she wanted to, but she wanted to help more than she did when she initially heard about Erin coming, but I'm not sure she wanted to go so far as to give her explosives. Anyways, let's move on to the last question. The discussion's already reached an hour, so let's just do one more, and then we'll stop it for today. Jesse Squirrel says, I don't think it was about charm. I think it was about them seeing just how much of a big burden she was carrying. And that, honestly, that's part of her charm. Like, it's not like something she's intentionally trying to do, but that still is attributed in my mind to her charm in this sense. Because, yeah, she's pushing them away because she knows that her burden's so much, and they're seeing that, and they're seeing it kind of as like a selfless action, and so they're like, okay, let's help her out some. Anyways, last question: why is Niers taking such an aggressive approach to meet Erin? Okay, I'll just start us off by saying Niers is, madly in love with Erin, so obviously he's gonna go to the ends of the earth, do everything to meet her, and he definitely will meet her this time around, Sir Bear. Definitely will meet her. Definitely. For sure. Uh-huh. We all know it. It's gonna happen. There can't be any fake outs. There's not gonna be like a kidnapping that happens. It's definitely gonna happen. And but the real answer for me on why Niers is taking such an aggressive approach is because Erin is obviously very important to them. That's one part. The other part is Erin is very high level and can benefit him a lot. That's another part. But the largest part is that Erin is in a lot of danger right now. A lot of danger. And he knows this, and he knows that the best, he, quote unquote, knows that the best place she could be is with him, where he can protect her. So that's, I think, why Niers is being so aggressive. And he knows that if he went there, like, kind of clandestinely, he could get into some serious bad incidents. So he's just doing it as abruptly and as overtly as he can. Sir Bear says, hashtag Niers never meeting Erin, curse. Come on. We know it's going to happen. They're definitely going to meet. Gridcube says, horny. Okay. Yeah. Bartimaeus says, desperate to play chess and level up more. And as we saw in this chapter, Erin is not very desperate to play chess, so I wonder how that's going to go. Jesse Squirrel says, Niers never does anything by half measures. He has all the power and influence and is unafraid to use it. He is ruthlessly pragmatic at achieving his goals, as befits a grandmaster strategist. And he doesn't take chances. Literally, he doesn't like leaving things to chance. So if overwhelming force is what it takes to ensure her safety and him seeing her, he won't hesitate. It's a good point. I keep saying you guys have good points because you all have good points. That is a good point. And he does like to do things either extremely overtly or, extremely subtly. And this is definitely the extremely overtly part of his personality. Gridcube says, no, for real. I think he's playing his cards, placing Erin in a head of state status, making an attack on her not a trivial thing. Yeah, that's how I see it too. Samu says, he's also a bit of a drama queen and has a thing for epic entrances and public appearances that are completely over the top. Yeah, he definitely does, yeah. Sir Bear says, joke, Niers wants Erin's box, Arca delenda est. I'm gonna ban the words Arca delenda est, okay? How about that, Sir Bear? Also, Sir Bear says, serious, but yeah, I mentioned earlier and you said it, it's for protection. Jesse Squirrel says, Niers is so extra. Yeah, a little extra. And Tafara says, I think Niers is also conscious of all the favors he's done Erin, even without her asking. At the very least, he needs to justify all the things he's done to his company. He needs and wants to elevate her to a power in her own right, but also respecting that. Yeah. Asteria, you had something to add.
I'm going to disagree with the majority opinion, and I think that this is a distraction. So we know that Niers is at war on multiple fronts, and presumably he can't leave those endeavors. And so I wonder if he's actually with the whole retinue that he sent to meet Erin, and maybe he'll kind of like do Jedi light trick or whatever in and speak with her that way, but I don't think he's actually with that force. I mean, I imagine he's still in the front directing soldiers, whatever. And maybe this is like a front for some other maneuver that he's got to pull to kind of take the lead on some of these other wars that he's fighting. I mean, hopefully he's kind of learned his lesson from failed romantic endeavors in the past with Erin. He knows they don't work. And he's just doing what everyone expects him to do while he's pulling off some trick that, he's using kind of Erin's presence to be able to achieve. That would be my guess.
Yeah, I don't think Niers himself is coming to her. I think he's trying to get an escort to make her come to him. Like, I don't think he's going to drop everything and go to Talanqual, but he is going to make it so that Erin can safely get to him without any obstacles whatsoever. But I'm not sure this is like some a big masterstroke to make it seem like he's doing something and then doing something else.
Pirate has been promising about Niers' epic strategy stuff, right? And then he got sidetracked with the whole romance thing, which he still carries feelings for Erin, but he got smacked down so many times with past endeavors that he knows better to be more subtle. I have to imagine that we've got to see a fake out. I mean, this is the perfect place to kind of get a little bit more complex with the characters and really lean into different aspects that we haven't otherwise seen. And this would take Niers and Erin's relationship or a lack thereof to at least a slightly different tone.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful for seeing how this plays out.
All right. All right. Thank you, Asteria. Kainia says, the thing is that leading an army there should be like broadcasting to her enemies that she is there. If he is doing it, either it has already leaked or he is taking a stance against all of them. Sir Bear replies, everyone knows Paith got Erin with the scrying spells, the recorded spells that Leon saw, and people powerful blocking the teleportation spells and other things like that. Yeah, I think most of the people in the know that Erin is in Paith and Talanqual, so it's not too bad that Niers is kind of like telegraphing this so much. All right, I'm gonna let Kaineus respond real fast, and then any final thoughts anyone has, go ahead, give your final thoughts. This will be the end of the discussion. Coming up, Kaineus says, there should be some doubt if there's so much about that she was unscribable. And apparently Asteria thinks I forgot the best question of all. What was the best question, Asteria?
About in the author notes as to what the next chapter should be.
I forgot actually one thing that we were supposed to do at the very end here. So this isn't the end of the ACD. No, the next chapter is going to be about Erin.
Rat.
Erin.
No, it's going to be about the rat. It's got to be about the
No.
rolling rat. Yes, and he even has a name now, and you need to pronounce it and say it for the world.
Garmin Stolondil. Garmin Stolondil. How about that? I did great. Anyways, the one thing we forgot to do is talk about the blog. So, okay, I think we all know what the blog says. Pirate Abba is moving from 2 chapters a week to doing 30k words max a week, which might result in just 1 chapter. It might result in multiple chapters. But the point is, they're going to be doing less work, or not less work. They're going to be doing fewer chapters. So what do you guys think about that? Like, is this a good change? Is this a bad change? And maybe you could distinguish whether it's a good change for you as the consumer versus Pirate Abbott, the producer. I personally think that Pirate Abbott, it's a good change. If Pirate Abbott feels like they need to cut back on how many chapters they're writing to make the story better overall, that's, I'm fully on board with that. That's absolutely a good change for the story. I have no idea how it's going to work out in terms of their Patreon. That's their concern. I don't think it's something I should be too concerned about, but for the story itself, I think it's a good one. It's a good change. Gridcube says, I want Paba to write as much as they are comfortable. They already wrote so much compared to any other author or any other writer then it's not a loss at all. I want them to write better than more. Yeah. Getting better words out there rather than more words is always a good thing. Always a good thing. Samu, you're up first. Go ahead.
Yeah, what I was thinking about just when reading this chapter today, which I read after the blog post, is now we're getting a whole new fantasy language, basically. And that's just like quality material by itself, I think. And in contrast, even for if with the reduced load, the output of Pirate Ever is just so great that it's still worth it to subscribe to Patreon and stuff. So if it's healthy, and I mean, it makes me feel better as well, because seeing Pirate Lava work so much is and stepping back a little bit is also good for my personal feelings, because I was like, I couldn't do this half a week what they're doing. So stepping back is totally fair, and it will still give us enough content for everything. That's all.
Yeah, it's a good opinion, Samu. I like it. I like it. I like it. I like it. I agree with it too. Sir Bear, you're up.
I have obviously it's a good thing that Parrot decided to reduce the workload. I don't think everyone is going to contest that. But for me that blog post bring me so many questions in itself. Some for the reader, some for the story. For the public reader, how is it going to go? Are they going to get the chapter on Tuesday? Are they going to get the chapter on Saturday, the next Saturday? Well, the gap will be for 1 week for the chapter for them. How is it going to go for them? But that's for Parrot to decide later. I don't we have an answer for that. The other one is mostly for the poll, because for those that don't that forgot or don't know, every month we get a poll with multiple choice, and the winner of that poll get a chapter for for next month. So, and now we're going like maximum four chapter, like four or maybe 5 chapter a month. And some of the poll chapter previously went for 2 chapter. So it would be like 1 chapter, 2 chapter. Famously, the Night of Solstice poll went for 3 chapter, with the biggest chapter across the Wandering Inn we ever got. So how is this going to change the story and itself? The poll. We'll have less poll. We'll have the same amount of poll, but more but shorter chapter for that. I I don't know how it's going to happen.
Yeah, maybe the polls will change in the future. This is obviously something new that Pirate Abba is working on, so they probably don't have all the kinks worked out yet. The polls are a good point though, because the polls can tend to dominate a whole cycle if they go on too long. So we'll see. We'll see. Asteria, you had thoughts?
Yes. So on that note, this might actually be a beneficial change to polls where we might actually get side characters and interludes that are short, 1 chapter, and we get back to like characters that we wouldn't otherwise see. No more main plot options on polls. We might actually get polls back to being polls so that one option doesn't dominate as the winner, which is main plot points. And I would be very excited to see that, because that's something I've been begging for I think a couple of years now at this point. I would echo Sarah Bear where I'm concerned. My only concern with the change is pacing, plot pacing. So to cut essentially half the content per month, my major concern would be just how we're going to keep progressing through all of the different plot points that Pirate has going on. It might be that with the reduction, we get, sort of maybe more kind of thought out ways to maneuver through everything, or we might just end up dropping certain plots. I'm interested to see how that is going to develop, but I hope there's a balance maintained between proceeding with sort of the main characters, Ryoka/Erin, as well as kind of meandering through these side characters, because those side plot points are actually, favorites of quite a few readers. So that would be my only concern, but I echo everyone else and say that this change is beneficial for the story and for Pirate, and 100% in favor.
I know at least one reader who would like so much more Rails and Jacross and Jacana in general, but I won't name that reader.
They sound like my new
Anyways,
best friend, and yeah, I like this. You have to give me their name because I fully agree with all of those points.
but you do make a good point that it's going to be interesting how the story pacing will continue from now on. I do think there's inevitably it's going to slow down. Like I think that's kind of inevitable with going to fewer words a week. You have to have some kind of slowdown in the story. Tavares says, I'm very worried about Pirate bouncing back to the schedule. I believe they mentioned in their previous blog post that they finally have all their side projects done at after the Volume 6 edits are done. So Pirate is dropping from 2 chapters plus side projects to just 1 chapter. I'm worried that huge drop is going to cause Pirate to rebound. I don't know. I think the reason they are dropping all this stuff is because of the V6 and the side chapters and the 2 chapters, and it's just so much work. So I think it's not going to be too bad. I hope they don't like bounce back right away. Give it at least half a year, see how they're feeling. Jesse Squirrel says, I'm 100% in favor. The pace that Pirate writes at is already insane. Imagine apologizing that you can only put out 30k words a week instead of 60. While it's been what's part of made TWI so great, at the same time it never felt sustainable. Always worried about the other shoe dropping. Yeah, this has been a long time in coming. It feels like just the sustainability was not there for what we had in the past. Stereo says, more of a focus on overall editing was my read. Way more editing on past and current stuff going on nowadays, and that takes a lot of time and focus. It does. It does. And yeah, it does. All right, I think that's it. I think we covered the blog now. We got all of your thoughts and opinions and all that fun stuff. So this is going to be the end of this after chapter discussion for 10.06. Thank you all for coming.